We write to inform, persuade, encourage, and even challenge others. But what if we have an 8, 9, or 10-year-old? Where do we begin? When it comes to younger students, especially if they're already reading or writing, there are some other concepts that you will need to work on before you really engage them into the academic process of writing. So let me introduce myself. My name is Rachel. I am a homeschool mom of 4 boys. I have graduated 2, and this school year I'm down to my last 7th grader and my 3rd senior. We have been homeschooling 17 years. I've had several different types of writers, and I've heard a lot of questions about writing. I've been personally asked questions. Do I have a reluctant writer? Asking about curriculum. So I just thought I would share hopefully something that would help you, especially if your kids are younger or even entering into the middle school age. I do first want to say that we do enjoy living books, and I really do believe reading to your children helps them hear good writing, which will encourage them as when they get to that stage of writing themselves. So don't be afraid to read above their level. A lot of times we look for age-appropriate books, and I am talking about children's books. You know, if you have a 3rd grader, maybe don't be afraid to go into 5th or 6th grade books if it is appropriate. Just read a little bit beyond their level so they can hear good writing. Also, children in the grammar stage, which would be these younger children that are learning to read and write, they are going to be doing this through their experiences. At this stage right now, it's really just observing, and they're probably not ready to write. So even through 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, they're still observing. They could be observing through the books you're reading, through the books they're reading or looking through, observing things outside, experiences they may have, whether it be a field trip or a vacation. They have to engage in these things so they can have their own experiences, so they do have things to write about. And once they transition, it'll be into the logic stage, which at that point, yes, they're still observing, and they begin to ask even more in-depth questions, because of course we know and the kids are younger in their grammar stage, they're always asking questions. But as they enter that logic stage, they begin to observe, ask more detailed questions, and sometimes they're not going to settle for our answer. They want to have more experience, or they want to read more about it to understand it for themselves. So at that stage, they're really ready to express the thoughts of their experiences and what they're learning onto paper. So what kind of writer do you have? Do you have a reluctant writer? Do you have one that just does not care to write? Do you have one that can write but really needs some help with the writing process? I'm going to talk about those things a little bit here, and I'm hoping that you can apply these things to your homeschooling if you have not already, or maybe become more consistent with them. So I do want to share this book because I really feel like if you've not read this book and you have younger children, I really feel like it would be encouraging. It's Charlotte Mason Companion by Karen Andriola. And I just want to read a few sentences from her book. When a child is accustomed to composing orally about what he is learning from a well-written book or from an experience, he is so familiar with using language that writing about what he is learning comes naturally to him. And that's sort of what I just talked about. And I found this in here. And whether I had learned that early on, because I have had this book probably about 12 years now. And it has really helped me when I first started homeschooling. So I know when I was in school, I really struggled with writing, and especially when I was younger and they would give me a writing prompt, I would go into panic mode. First of all, I think it was just how I worked, but also a lot of times they wanted me to write about something I didn't know anything about. Like, I had not experienced it. I had not read about it. I was not a big reader, and I didn't have anybody doing read alouds with me. So I did not do very well with those at all. So what if a child is to write about a day at the beach and they've never been to the beach? They've not really read or seen anything about the ocean. They're really not knowing exactly what you want. When they have not experienced it themselves, it makes it really hard. And that's sort of how I felt. The advantage of homeschooling is you can direct these writing prompts to your child's interest or experiences. So where do we start? Like I said, I really believe reading books, read alouds, having them hear good literature. And I know for homeschool mamas, this can be so hard and time consuming to be consistent in. So I'm going to tell you, there was a season that I went through that we listened to a lot of audiobooks. And you can do that any way you want. You can do that from an app on a phone. You could have a CD player. I think even YouTube now has books available to listen to. I know we listened to The Sign of the Beaver. We listened to Where the Red Fern Grows, and so on. Usually that was our quiet time in the afternoon, or if we had to be traveling to doctor's appointments or things like that. So that helps them hear good writing, words, and how they are put together. So I definitely encourage books, but I also encourage copy work. That helps them see what a sentence should look like. And I'm even talking about early on, once they begin writing, they'll have to be writing and reading by the time they're doing copy work. They can see the sentence structure, capital letter, and there's an end mark. This could be something that you just schedule in as maybe part of their history, that you just want them to copy maybe just starting out a sentence or two to the point where they're copying a paragraph of what one section, maybe once a week that you read. Okay. Oral narration is another important skill to work on with your kids early on. And for some, this will come naturally. And I have had others, it's like pulling teeth to get them to talk about it or communicate it. But asking specific questions sometimes helped when you're starting this oral narration, maybe even before they read or before you are reading, that you can give them some thoughts to think about as you're reading, see if they can find those answers, and then be able to communicate those back to you. Now, I have done that, and sometimes when it is in a group setting, they'll all want to say something, so that helps. And then I would actually write their answers down in complete sentences, try to get at least a paragraph, and then have them copy it. Usually we did that for like a notebooking that we were working on for history and maybe even science. I want to mention right here about a reluctant writer. Yes, I had a reluctant writer, and I want to say at this point he is older. He's educated and informs us about things all the time, and he can express his thoughts and opinions in a conversational way. But if I ask him to take a sheet of paper or a laptop and to type that out, it would be a no-go there. So I will tell you, I did use IEW with him, and it actually worked really well. The years that he did it, he could write some good papers. Now, there was a lot of times I was spending a lot of time helping him, but once I feel like he got to a certain point that if I would just leave him alone and come back, now this is middle school into high school, and I would come back, I would be shocked, like what he wrote. Like, he does have this in him, but even to this day, he has no desire to put it down on paper. So I wish I had an answer for that, but I know for me, it was just something I really had to pray about. So let's back up a little bit. While I was talking about oral narration and copy work, I want to mention grammar. Okay, I did, once they hit 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, I did use Shirley English, a curriculum for grammar. Now, for each child, it was different. My oldest, who was the reluctant writer, actually did really well with this, and he started in 3rd grade. Now, my other boys, it was more like we may have started in 3rd grade, but definitely like 4th and 5th. And we did not push to get through a whole year of curriculum in one year. We would spread it out. We would take our time. But I really loved the question answer flow to this curriculum. I have videos. I will link them below. But I do feel like once children start grasping good writing and oral narration and begin to do copy work, that understanding the grammar and is really helpful, especially as they really do start to sit down and begin the writing process. Okay, so saying that, I'm going to tell you that I do really love IEW. I know it does not work for all people, but I also know that with any curriculum that you still have to be the teacher and not the curriculum. My oldest was actually in 5th or 6th grade when I first introduced IEW level A to him. So this was actually before the new videos they have out. And we really just took our time. We spread it over a couple of years and we probably did not even finish it. But he learned the process. My second had a really hard time with like sounds of voices. He did fine with the process, but I'm going to admit, and I hate to admit this, but he actually struggled with Andrew Pudewa and just the videos and the sound. And tell you the truth, it could have just been our sound system from our TV at the time is how we had to watch it. So I don't know, but they were the older videos also for him. My third did well with it. My fourth son loves to write, and I actually have not even introduced him to the videos. He has seen his brother do them last couple years. He did level C, and he may have listened to it sometimes, but usually I think he had the headphones on now that I think about it. But we did do a themed book last year, and he did fine with the process. I do plan on doing some of the videos. I'm not sure what level and when we'll start, but I do want to go through that with him. So I want to encourage you through those things that every child is going to be different. For example, my second obviously struggled with voices. He really struggled to focus. And I almost sometimes wonder, that middle school age, really, it's almost like there's a brain fog. Like I'm getting older and I feel that again. So I'm relating to my 7th grader here. So I'm being a little bit sympathetic. But I can't remember if he was like in 5th or 6th, but he had to write. I don't remember if it was a paragraph or a full sheet of paper. It wasn't a lot. It was for science. He had to write. I think they each got to choose what they were going to write about, and he chose frogs. It may have even been a certain type of frog. So this was a while ago. But I decided to let him use a YouTube video and take notes to collect his information so he could write about it. Sometimes you have to be a little bit creative to get them to start the process, and don't always feel like you have to do it just like the curriculum says. And again, at the beginning stages of the grammar stage, your child might be in 2nd grade and you want to find the perfect curriculum that will work to teach them writing and grammar. But for my boys at that age, that was just the time for observing, for copy work, for oral narration and discussion. So I introduced grammar concepts and may have begun curriculum casually around 3rd or 4th grade. Definitely by 5th grade, we were into some form of grammar curriculum. And I really feel like IEW does some of that. And I know for us, Fix It, even though we're not using it this school year, I really just highly recommend it. And you could even redo a book or skip a year and come back and do the next book. So be patient and be consistent. I know that is so hard for parents, but the way to be consistent is to be realistic with your time and say you want to do some copy work. Just start out once a week. Maybe you want to do an oral narration, again, just once a week. Maybe you just need to switch back and forth to get yourself used to it. But just being consistent in some area, give your kids heads up on what you're going to be expecting from them, even when they are young. As homeschool mamas, I know we really want a curriculum that we can hand over and know the curriculum is going to do the work. For some kids, that may work, but most of the time, we're having to use the curriculum to guide us to help them. No one ever said that homeschooling was easy, and I have not done all these things that I am mentioning to you perfectly, but I know the more consistent you are, the more you'll see better results. Okay, so hopefully I gave you some steps that will help you, encourage you, whether your child is in the grammar stage or coming into the logic stage. You can use any of these ideas that I mentioned. And I really would try a couple of them even before you jump into purchasing a curriculum if you feel like that is what you want to do in the future. But in the end, please ask the Lord to help and guide you in what is best for your children, because they're also different. If you have anything you want to add that maybe has worked for you and your child, please comment below. We would love to learn more. And I do want to really highly recommend this book. And I can get it at my library, even if you wanted to check it out first. All right, I do appreciate you all watching. If this video was helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you are new here, I would love for you to join us by subscribing. All right, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and we will talk to you again soon.